Hello, it's me again. Um, okay, so we're going to be kind of carrying on where we just left off, talking about enhancing growth through excellent CX, and I've got two amazing people to join me on this. So George, we're going to start with you. Little introduction, please.
So outsourcing CX for more than 200 brands. Again, like I said, sometimes not always the most sexy topic, but our approach is really simple to create something very scalable and flexible for brands, and getting that right AI and human mix, and also do it the right way. Like I think a lot of people have quite a negative perception towards outsourcing, and in customer support, there's some negative perceptions towards how companies set up their teams, whether that be offshore and so on. So our model is using like local native fans of the brands that end up doing customer service.
And Annie, I work for Serious Tissues. We're a sustainable household items brand. We mainly sell toilet roll and some other paper products. And I'm
A serious,
a very serious company, changing the world one roll at a time.
And one piece of tissue at a time, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you take anything away from today, then let it be that. Okay, George. So, can you please? Oh, actually, no, both of you. I'll address both of you. Can you both share some of your challenges and biggest learnings brands are facing with customer experience?
So I think AI is the obvious one, right? Like everyone, you've been hit AI on every talk, and it's getting a bit repetitive. But I think the challenge with AI is it's the buzzword at the moment, right? Like every C-level exec is like, how can we use AI? And in the context of CX, it should be the easiest thing, right? Like we're going to automate tickets, build a really good knowledge base. But in practice, it isn't that easy. So I don't know if everyone saw the big U-turn that Klarna did, like the buy now, pay later platform. So they came out about a year ago saying we're going to invest heavily into AI. We've got 300 agents, a huge contact center all over the world, and we're going to significantly reduce that. A year later, they've come out and said, you know what, our customers have told us they want to speak to a human, and they've basically gone to the extreme. So, by the way, we use AI. I'm not saying don't use it. My point is you need to be very selective as to when and how you implement it. So that's obviously one of the biggest challenges. And my biggest takeaway here with AI for like people in the room is content is everything. If you don't have a really good knowledge base, good luck getting value out of AI. Like bottom line, if you don't have a really structured like A to Z on how that AI should think and work, it's not going to work basically. So that's obviously one of the biggest challenges. So my big point is like content and knowledge base is everything.
But knowledge base, I think it's also very important for the brands. Like if you work with partners like Onepilot or whoever your customer service people are, even if it's an internal team, if you don't have like a proper knowledge base processes of how to do this, what happens if this goes wrong, or you don't have like an open communication with them, then you can't really service your customers properly. And time, like now we all want right answers, fast answers, and our problem solves as fast as possible. And I think having the right knowledge and the right tools helps a lot to both.
And you said earlier, we were chatting at the back earlier about some of the things we were going to talk about. And I think the key part of that knowledge base is it's always changing. So you may build the knowledge base today and get AI maybe automating 10, 20, I don't know, 60% of tickets, whatever the case may be. You have to remember that needs to be a live working document. So the same effort you would apply to CX needs to be applied to actually how you maintain that said knowledge base. So the easiest example, if you think about during non-peaks, CS is quite easy, right? Like the volumes are much lower. You have time to think. It's just an easier part of the year. You could easily test the AI and say, okay, it's working. That's when you should test it. Don't test it during peaks, because if you think about how AI and automation will work, during non-peaks, if your AI isn't trained properly and you send one bad response or two or whatever, that's fixable. But if you turn it on or test it during peak periods, and I assume some brands would have done, during the last quarter, that kind of one or two response could be 1 or 200, and that is obviously a much bigger, challenge to solve. So
Amazing. And I don't know if everyone heard you say this because of the mics. But you said to George that Onepilot has been life changing. You're welcome. Thought that back.
I didn't pay you to say that either, did I? Just to be
No, he does not pay me to say that, but it really has been life changing. We're a very small team. I was a one-man band for a really long time. And at the start, I was managing ops, supply chain, marketing, a little bit of everything. Like a lot of the people in the room, I guess, are doing today. And suddenly, like customer service would take half of my day every day, and I just couldn't service them properly, and not everything was being taken care of. And having a partner like Onepilot has really been life-changing, because not only has it allowed me to focus on other things, our customer service levels increased, our churn rate decreased, and people keep coming back because we give a better service and they get what they need from us.
But most importantly, you don't have to do it anymore.
That is the most important part.
Delegation.
That is the life-changing, like personally.
You've kind of touched on it there, but can you share how else it's had a direct impact on the growth side of things?
So I think definitely reducing the churn, and a lot of our customers email about like getting a little bit more information about the product. So it's helping us on the conversion side as well, like having the knowledge base that we were talking about earlier, and just like properly answering the questions on things that are very exciting in the world of toilet roll, like is this septic tank safe, or how does it compare to other products in the market, or what really do you mean about this eco credentials that we have? So really educating customers and leading them to conversion has been really helpful.
That's great. I mean, also when you're allowed to concentrate on other things,
Yeah,
you can get so much done. Okay, and George, how do you gather and incorporate customer feedback?
So obviously it's CSAT, right? Like in terms of like everyone's North Star metric. So the penny dropped a little bit last year of CSAT. So obviously everyone not every brand in the room measures CSAT, which I still find like ridiculous. Like source out, every brand should be at least measuring CSAT. That should be always your North Star metric. However, you should always ask the question, like, why? Like, why are you actually measuring a CSAT, and what does that number actually mean? So what my point is, you hear like buzzwords around of like CSAT, more than 90%, our customers are really happy. It's like, yeah, but why? So my point is, have you changed your warranty process? Have you made it easier for self-serve? It's not just about that interaction with the support agent, even though that is what we are providing. So my kind of like takeaway here is that maybe as a business, you do have an 85% CSAT score. Then maybe for you as a business, that's actually really good. It's not black and white compared to other brands. So my suggestion here would be, and not enough brands do this, is to document a timeline and almost like sequence events of things that potentially impact CSAT. So for example, measure your CSAT, day by day, week by week, month by month, etc. Peaks, non-peaks. But really timestamp the key changes you make as a business that potentially correlate to CSAT. So for example, new product launches, are you changing your returns process? Because often people get really bogged down like, well, how quickly are we responding? What's the quality of the response? When in reality, your CSAT could be 85%, your competitor's 95%, but guess what? Your competitor's refunding at every opportunity. So actually, it's our fair comparison. So.
Okay, and then let's imagine, well, actually, I hope everyone has, but let's imagine everyone in the room has gathered their customer feedback. How should they then be measuring the quality of CX?
So again, like if you ask a customer, what do they care about? Again, I'm contradicting what I just said. It's two things, like how quickly do they get a response and the quality of that response, right? Like that is bottom line, like the reason they're reaching out. However, take a step back. So from like a framework point of view as a CX team, you should be obsessed about like root cause analysis. Like what is the root cause? Why are they reaching out? Because the best level of customer experience is when they don't need to reach out, right? That is obviously the dream, that they never need to reach out. So you need to focus on the root cause of the problem. The main temperature check of that is order to contact ratio. So 5 to 15% is typical industry sweet spot. If you're on the lower side of that, kudos. If you're on the higher side or above 15%, that should be raising alarm bells, basically.
Yeah, but everyone's taking note. I mean, we all had a conversation about a week ago, and we were speaking about D2C Live, and obviously it's in the name, it's D2C. However, you guys do a lot of B2B as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned how you've done retail, you stopped it now, but have you got any advice for other brands trying to grow both D2C and B2B channels?
I think really like understand what it takes to grow two channels at once. I think when Serious Tissues first started, we wanted to do all the channels, all the countries, everything at once. And we kind of like tried to do it all. And then we quickly realized we can't. So really understand why you want to do a channel. Like it might be that, yes, you want the additional sales, but why you're doing it is to get the additional brand awareness, and that comes at a cost. We really wanted to do retail for that reason. And then we realized that there's also margins involved. There's also a lot of like supply chain that comes into it. And we couldn't sustain both. We couldn't sustain the brand awareness while fulfilling the orders for the customers. And that led to like just unhappy customers that then didn't want our products, that then kind of like creates other issues. Now we're focusing on B2B, and we do everything through distributors. And we have like a completely different range of products that caters those needs. And there has been a lot of like, it's like an account management role of like understanding the needs, why would you need it, and what solves the problems of your customer. So it was really like focusing on what can make a difference and how do you want to bring impact to your brand. Because now our B2B side is very focused on the impact that our like B2B partners are creating, and how by changing to our brand then can create more impact in their own companies, and how does that reflect them. And by changing that mindset, we're able to provide like a better product solution, very impact minded. That is like the first thing we'll say is like, this toilet roll creates this much impact, this toilet roll creates this much impact, and this is how it impacts your metrics. And that takes account management on the one side, but on the other side is a lot of like relationships with suppliers and making sure we have that, because it's a very long funnel sales. So I focus on why you want to do something, and be mindful that it comes with a cost, and you need not just monetary resources, time resources, and you need help from awesome partners as well.
Maybe just to add, Doug, on like businesses that have like a retail or a B2B side as well, I think sometimes a common trend we see when we're speaking to brands is there's often a bit of a disconnect between what is happening on the front line with, you know, your CX team and then B2B side. So we've got brands like Dashwater, Moju, who obviously have a really healthy e-commerce business, but majority of their growth is fueled by people going into a store, buying a product. And ultimately, the same outcome is still the same target, right? Like, what does the end user experience get when they get the product, and then when they need to interact with the business and so on. My point here is integrate the two teams. So a really broad bit of advice that we do as a business and we recommend to our partners is get everyone in a room once a month, once a quarter, to look at what's going in your help desk, whether that's Zendesk or just Intercom. Like, get in there, look at what your customers are saying. And that should actually fuel your B2B team as well, just because it tends to be a bit of an unhealthy disconnect a lot of the time.
And like have it defined as well, because we get very different questions from our B2B customers and our D2C customers. And like it goes back to like our hello at email that gets managed by Onepilot. And they have very specific like rules on how to manage each different type of customer. And there's like a point where like our team gets involved because they need a lot more information. So having those like processes defined and what makes one type of customer, and the other one a different one, it's important.
I think a lot of people in the remote group, and I can see lots of nodding going on. And then for both of you, actually, I think it'd be good to get both perspectives. But what are some common pitfalls e-com brands should avoid when designing their CX strategies?
So I think I mentioned it a little bit already, but it's jumping in too fast with AI. And there's a really obvious reason to this, because just a show of hands, who's had a really bad experience with a chatbot in the last like 10, 20 years? People with their hands are just lying, because everyone's had a negative experience with a chatbot where you want to speak to a person, you can't get through. And I think there is still some scar tissue in place from that experience from a user. So when you are going to go and try and offer things like live chat, automate the interaction between user and agent through AI, go carefully, which you have in the back of your mind, a lot of users still just want to speak to a person. So if you're going to offer something like a live chat, don't give the false illusion that there's actually not a human and they're going to come back in 24 hours. Be very transparent that, hey, this is AI. Make it as personal as possible. And as a result, it should come across a little bit better.
And remember that you need to update it properly.
You don't update it, it creates mistakes.
If you don't update it, mistakes happen. Like I was telling George, I found an automation from 2022 that was hacked still last week. And I only found it because someone messaged me and was like, what's this? And I was like, oh no, I need to turn that up. Yeah, so it can create a really not great experience for a customer. So it's very helpful, but it needs time to be put in to make it happen properly and for the customer to have the best experience on it.
I think there's like a common theme here, right? Of like AI is awesome, but it takes like strategic thinking and like humans to really manage it properly in order for it to work. Like, you know, like bottom line, if you're not willing to put the time and effort into things like content outside of how it works, ultimately you're just going to end up with really angry customers.
It's not a quick fix, is it? You do have to teach the AI these things, and you want it to work how you would speak to the customer. So yeah, it's definitely a patient waiting game. Thank you so much, guys. That was a really good chat. And yeah,